afternoon, my friends. Welcome to my office, to the virtual space of my office. This is your chair. I'm Pastor Lou. This is a ministry of the High Mountain Presbyterian Church, and it's 2 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. Well, how's that for setting the metes and bounds of where we are and what's happening? So, my topic for today is worrying. Sometimes as a pastor, I'm invited to speak about, or I speak about anyway, things I don't know anything about. It's just, that's my job. That's the nature of my work. Oftentimes, I try to be honest about it if I don't know what I'm talking about, but mostly I have to be told, you don't know what you're talking about. So, today I am talking about something that I know a lot about. I think the time is to talk about it. I have said in my ministry among the people of this community, I've confessed my sin of worrying. That's right, I'm a worrier. Not everybody is, and Fred Buechner says in his book that in most families there's an appointed worrier, there's a designated worrier, and I agree, but I didn't like it because I feel like what that feels like is that then somehow that's just something I do and nobody else needs to do. And I'm a professional worrier, which means if you're not worried, you ought to be asking yourself why. Because I think worrying is smart. I think worrying is the best thing to do. I think worrying shows that you care. Now, that's who I am, but it's not really what I believe. I do believe, I really do believe, and I can see the wisdom that says worrying, which is unique. Worrying is not planning, worrying is not action, worrying is just worrying. It's being filled with worry. Sometimes worrying gets in the way of doing something about what you're worried about. I know this to be true, that worrying is not my friend. I've often said, I wish I could stop worrying. In this chair, in my office, many of the people who come to talk to me over the years come to talk about what they're worried about. Because worrying can sometimes produce a weight on your shoulders that makes you feel like you can't even walk. Worrying, I'm going to repeat it, is not planning. Worrying is not doing. It's not action. Worrying is going about feeling worried. I'm very worried about that. So I'm a confessing worrier. I have good days and bad days. I'm able some days to practice letting go of my worries. Comes my yawn. Some days I just feel like I have it in me. I just push the worry aside. I get on to the tasks at hand. I'm able to accept the outcomes that come and to make plans based on what happens or doesn't happen. Yeah, I get it. I know what it's like to not worry. But many times people come in and they talk about what they're worried about. Many days ago, I talked about the therapist who said to me that in our self-talk, we ought to pose the question of what's the worst that can happen. Because in our imagination, our worry travels through fantasy or through imagination to the place of the worst thing that can happen, and we root ourselves there as if that is actually happening right now. That's what our emotional world of worry does. And so to combat that, counselors and therapists say, okay, let's talk about what's the worst that can happen. Put it out there in front of me. What is the worst that can happen? And then, of course, the word of comfort, once you go there and you fill out all the content of your worry, is the wise ones, the counselors, the pastors, the therapists will say to you, look at the human record. Your imagination of what the worst that can happen is almost never what actually happens. Now, sometimes you can be clairvoyant, right? You worried about what was going to happen, and exactly what you worried about is exactly what takes place. Although, even there, look more closely to those things. Because I think you'll find there's a lot of things that come along with the circumstance that arrives that you didn't count on. And often in a way that was clouded by your worry. What do you worry about? What do you worry about? What do I worry about? I worry about money. I worry about paying bills. I worry about the continuation of the ministry that I have, especially now in the environment of COVID. There are churches closing. And I know many of them are closing because of pre-existing conditions. Can I say that? The pre-existing conditions among many congregations is not good in the culture in which we live. I don't think that's a status report on the gospel or the ministry that we are to be engaging in. I'm just saying that the bricks and mortar structure of congregations as they have existed for 50 or 70 years in the United States is a pre-existing condition that many of them facing the consequences of this social pandemic will not survive. What do I worry about? I don't want to be one of those. I don't want to be one of those. I mean, every congregation, every gathering of the faith community knows we live in times that challenge how we do what we do. Long before the pandemic came, getting people to get excited about coming out to a gathering on a Sunday morning or Sunday evening or one gathering that really brings you together with people of faith so that your faith can be strengthened was under a challenge. Attendance in churches is down across the board. And you may have, a new church in your community that is vibrant, it's full of people going to church, but check to see where they're from. They're drained out of the other churches. The church's impact on the culture today is not the church. It's not deep. I love my congregation here. What do I worry about? I worry about decisions that people make and hope that they will take care of themselves. And I hope they'll be able to do it outside what I know. I know this. People have said this to me as we've left our gatherings week after week after week. People have, I do the tradition of standing at the door and I shake hands because we greet each other. And people say to me, I feel better now that I've been to church. I have more hope. I have some optimism. I go back out to my week and I feel stronger. And I don't think they were saying that to tickle my ears. I think they were saying it was just too genuine. I'm so glad I came today. So glad that I was a part of this today, because I feel better. So what do I worry about? I worry about all those people who had that in their life as a part of a way to feel and know hope and joy and to be lifted up. I worry that what happens when that's gone? What do I worry about? I worry about my children. I've worried about them ever since they were born. Hasn't changed, I don't think, much of what has happened or hasn't happened in their life. Not the worrying, but I still worry. And sometimes I can worry about all of them together. Oh, that's a real worry party. I feel my worry in my gut. I have a physical response. The worrying can be so intense. And I feel it. One of the reasons I felt that this was a day to talk about this again is because I feel it. I feel the dust of it blowing back into my life. Worrying. The news is worrisome. People say, well, turn it off. I don't want to turn it off. That makes me worried even more because then I don't know. The very word that is at the heart of what I do, of what I'm about, of what the community is about, the word faith, is the opposite of worry. I know that. Here. I know that. And I am a person of faith. I am able to trust and to put faith in what I can't see and what I don't know. I have the capacity to do it, and I believe, as Presbyterians have always said, that's because God gives me that capacity. It's not something to brag about because He didn't get it because of me. It was given to me, the ability to have faith, the ability to trust in circumstances that don't look good. To not worry. Jesus said, do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Okay, that makes sense to me. But even those words, even quoted to me from Jesus Himself, sometimes don't make a dent. They don't even make a dent in the power of worry that resides in me sometimes. When my mom, before she died, when my mom was advancing with her Alzheimer's and her dementia, especially when she was still living at home and my dad was trying to take care of her, I worried. I worried every day. I got in the habit, though, of letting the worry lead me into an action, which was I called, I talked to them. I made trips to see them because I worried about what was going to happen to them. The worrying didn't change anything. And the worrying wasn't so big that it kept me from doing things. But it changes the quality of your life. The reason Jesus, I'm convinced, said, do not worry about tomorrow, is because worrying drains today of its joy. There's no question about that. No question at all. We were talking about this yesterday in the glass half empty, half full. Worrying, I don't know, what is it? Where does it come from? It grows out of my sense of a truth. There's a truth behind worrying, and that is, I'm vulnerable. I'm vulnerable. I don't have the same kinds of defenses that, I don't even have the same kind of defenses that a deer has, or other animals in the wild. The turtle has a shell. There's
I mean, I have my mind, and I can invent defenses, like build houses, those kinds of things, but I feel vulnerable in this world, and almost all people do. And when we feel our vulnerability, we feel it because it's true, it's not imagined, it is true. When we feel our vulnerability, it can be a reason for faith. It can be. And sometimes it can be a reason for lack of faith. It can be that which chases faith out of the room and out of your heart. We call that worry. There are some things in the Christian life which we call a discipline. A discipline is something that you do in season and out of season. It's something that you do regularly. It's something that you add to your life, which gives an unstructured life structure. And one of the disciplines, and there are several of these disciplines of walking with God, one of the disciplines is to regularly revisit your compartment of worry and to empty it. To empty it. Through honest prayer, through honest conversation with someone else that you love and trust and you know won't shame you for your worry. Sometimes it's listening to music, meditating. But no matter what works for you, no matter what empties your worry room, no matter what empties the volume of your worry, in the Christian life, it is a discipline, which means you don't do it once and you're done. You come back to it. That's why it's called a discipline. It's a discipline of emptying yourself. Of listening. Of remembering the times when you've worried before and then missed wonderful things that were happening during that time. It's being in conversation with your worry, bringing it out, dealing with it. And even if it doesn't work every time, even if it doesn't work every day, you return to the discipline. You return to it. You do it. You do it. You address it. So that eventually it becomes, through discipline, a way of life for you. There's a lot to worry about in the world, my friends, today. Maybe not really any more than any other day, but we're aware, I know we are, worries about things that seem bigger, darker. The future, you know, I'm a generation, the first generation in the world that grew up knowing that we had invented explosives and bombs capable of destroying the entire planet, wiping out the human population. That, you know, when I was in 8th grade and 9th grade and we learned about this, that added a unique kind of worry, a rhythm in the background always. The environmental concern issues. I had a friend many years ago now, one of the conversations around the environment was the hole in the ozone layer. He told me at one point, knowing that I might think he was crazy, but that he used to lie in bed at night and he would get awake in the night and realize he was worried about the hole in the ozone layer. He would visualize it and worry about, you know, the essential protective elements of our atmosphere leaking through the hole in the ozone, which was like a blanket that holds in all the life-giving elements of our atmosphere. Yeah, we got some really big things. By the way, the ozone layer, the hole has been shrunk, mostly through the illegality of fluorocarbons and the propellants in aerosols. We made a difference there, but it didn't come about because of worrying. So the pastor's chat today is anything you can do to help yourself let go of worrying will add to your life today. That's my prayer for you. Release your worry. It'll be back, but release it for today. Try to breathe in, breathe out. Know what's going on in the world, but know also that God is with you. God is with all of us. With those that we know and love and those that we don't know. In circumstances that we understand and ones that we don't understand. Let's develop the discipline of that so that when we're in the height of our worry, we know how to go to the place that empties our worry room. That's my prayer for you. That's my conversation with you today. I hope it's helpful. I'll be back here tomorrow, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I look forward to a chat with you then. God bless you, my friends.